So me, 27 male, and my father, 51 male, have a rather strained relationship. My father never really wanted children, and he was younger and made the mistake of being a father at a young age. He never really abandoned me in a literal sense, but he never really was interested in me. He rarely ever celebrated my birthday much, and often refused to do things with me when I was younger. When I was 15, he married my stepmother and seemed to care more about the family he had with her than the one he had with my mother. I didn't really care much until the age of 19, when he wrote to me over email that I was no longer in his will because the job I had wasn't respectable enough. At the time, I was a cashier, and told me that if he wanted to bestow one of his sons with inheritance, they had to be successful. I was of course deeply saddened, but I got over it in time and moved on. A few days before Christmas, after years of my dad not writing or even seeing me, he wrote to me on Messenger because I had him blocked on Gmail, Twitter, and all apps that had a messaging feature. He asked if I was interested in reconnecting before 2023. I was skeptical, of course, so I called the number and asked him to explain why now. He explained that he was suffering from liver cancer after years of alcoholism, and he wanted to mend our relationship in case he were to die. I was still pissed about not getting my will, so I refused. But I still feel pretty guilty. What if he is actually dying, and I'm just being a jerk to a dying middle-aged man? Not the a-hole. He cut you out of his will and belittled you for not having a successful job. Not to mention how he's treated you with disinterest. It's pretty cold. That being said, it is not uncommon for people to realize the gravity of their sins when they face their own mortality. If he is dying, it may be best to eke out something so you don't feel bad. Maybe tell him how much he hurt you, and that it was never about the money as much as it was about the disrespect and the lack of interest. Point out that if he wants to reconnect, it has to start from him accepting that and showing regret. If he dies, maybe you'll get closure and know that at least your father regrets everything. If not, then you'll get closure about the kind of person he really is. But you are not a bad person if you choose not to. It is entirely up to you at the end of the day. Not the a-hole, but as soon as you mentioned liver disease, I started wondering if he's reaching out because he's trying to find a transplant donor. Wow, yo daddy is a real winner. While he never had a duty to put you in his will, you never had a duty to be his loving son. Money doesn't buy respect or love, OP. Not the a-hole by far. You do you. Background. My maternal grandmother got remarried to a wealthy man after my bio-granddad died when my mom was young. They got divorced after an affair was discovered, and my grandmother got one of his homes in a very, very nice area. Grandma got remarried again to another wealthy man, to the person I call Grandpa. Grandma and Grandpa have since passed, and Grandma left the house to my mom, who was her only child. Cash was divided between my mom and her step-siblings, my aunts and uncles. The house is a huge, beautiful 5-bedroom, 5.5-bath, Georgian-style home with a pool and jacuzzi. My grandmother treasured that house and put a lot of effort and love into it over the decades she lived there. I could never sell it. She always said she wanted it to remain in the family for generations. Mom and Dad lived there once Grandma and Grandpa passed, and I was out of the house. However, they've since moved to Florida and left the house in my care. This house is a pain in the butt to maintain, though. Neither me or my parents are rich by any stretch of the imagination. Every penny of my mom's inheritance goes to maintaining the house. Now the issue. My favorite cousin on my granddad's side asked me recently about moving in. His wife, whom I don't get along with all that well, said that since I have the extra space, they wouldn't mind them and their 2 kids moving in for a while. According to them, they're tired of slumming it in the city and an apartment, and was hoping they could get a higher quality of life in a nice neighborhood. They could save the money from rent and put it towards their own house in a year or 2. I was put on the spot, but I told them no, that I valued my privacy and solitude. I told them that my lifestyle conflicts with theirs, and it wouldn't work. They called me selfish for not even considering it, and that I should at least take some time. I told them the answer would be the same if I did think about it. My dad's side of the family said I'm being selfish. My dad has assured me he's taking care of it, and he's on my side. Mom has told me that under no circumstances am I allowed to let anyone move in, under penalty of death. Reddit. I have to wonder, am I being selfish here? I mean, I have a ton of room, and I'd be helping out my family and my little nibblings. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, 100,000%. You do not owe your home to anyone. That's an insane boundary they crossed by assuming it would be okay. Valuing your privacy and solitude is your right, and you do not owe them a damn thing. Living with someone is a really intimate experience. I wouldn't do it either. Some people are like that, and there is nothing wrong with that either. But I'm the same as you. Not the a-hole. For one thing, the house isn't technically yours. You're a rent-free tenant of your mother. Your mom doesn't want them there regardless of how you feel about it. Second thing, what single guy wants a family of 4 moving into his home? They just want to mooch off your nice house. Not the a-hole. They are a-holes for trying to invite themselves into your house like that. Do not even let them in. Once they are inside, you will not get them out. My 22 female. Grandparents died when I was young, and my mom inherited the house. She never sold it and likes to use it for holiday celebrations. My brother, 24 male, Sam, and I have full access to the house. Sam uses it often and doesn't treat it well. This upsets Mom because she wants it to be clean for the holidays. Yet she doesn't take away his keys, and she always expects me to help her clean the mess because she knows Sam won't. So I came to town with my new kitten yesterday and was planning to stay at my grandparents' house. I was told that there may be some fishing gear out there, but overall, it's clean. I walked into the house, and it was so bad that the only safe place for me to leave the cat unattended was a bathroom. It was disgusting. There was rotten meat, maggots, mold, mud, open beer cans everywhere, fishing hooks on the carpet, plus a pile of like 20 fishing rods thrown on the floor. There was more, but it's hard to describe how bad it was with just words alone. I called my mom crying because I had nowhere else to stay since they had guests staying in my bedroom. My options were to figure something out there or drive hours back to my apartment. My mom told me to just clean it up enough so that it would be safe for my cat to be there and to just throw any of Sam's stuff into the garage. She said that we were going to have to clean it up anyways, so might as well just start now. So I did, even though I was upset with the fact that I was once again expected to clean up Sam's mess for him. While cleaning, I put his pile of fishing rods into the garage like my mom said. Earlier today, he came over here to get something for his next fishing trip, and I guess 2 of his rods that I moved broke. I don't know how because he wouldn't show me, but he started demanding that I pay him $150 for replacements because I was the one that moved them. I refused and told him he has no business treating the house the way he does. I essentially said that I'm sorry his rods broke and I didn't mean to damage anything, but if he wouldn't have left them out like he did, this wouldn't be an issue. I showed him pictures of the rat crap, mold, and maggots that I had to clean up just so my cat wouldn't eat it and get sick. He had lied and said that the house was pretty much clean, and since he didn't clean it up himself, this is what he gets. Now he refuses to speak to me until I pay him. He calls me an a-hole for refusing to. My mom is trying to stay out of it, but suggested I pay him so we can have a peaceful Thanksgiving. My dad is on my side. My brother's girlfriend texted me, basically saying that I'm an a-hole because it's easier for me to afford $150 than it is for him. In response, I sent her photos of everything I had to clean up, and she left me on red. At first, I was sure of my stance, but now I'm not sure and was hoping to get some outside input. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You would know if you broke a fishing rod. Sounds like a scam to me. And if he doesn't want his stuff messed with, he should put it away himself. It isn't his house. He has already proved he is a liar because he claims he left the house clean. Not the a-hole, but you should convince your mom to take away his key. He's obviously not mature enough to be responsible for a house. If it were my son, the key would be taken back or locks would be changed. He's 24, not 2. Tell him he owes you $500 for cleaning fees, but you'll knock off $150. This guy should not have a key to this place. Your mom is enabling him. And I must be old. I am. But can anyone enlighten me as to how it's all right for people not involved in these disputes feel it's all right to send random texts talking crap? That would get an instant F off every single time. It seems to happen in every story. Update. Turns out what really happened was that Sam's girlfriend ended up not seeing the rods where I put them and stepped on them. She didn't tell Sam this until later today after she texted me, and I didn't respond how she hoped. Currently, Sam and his girlfriend are here but downstairs fighting about who knows what. He's apparently going to be helping to clean out the garage, so we'll see how that goes. Like I mentioned, I cleaned up the house yesterday enough so that my cat wouldn't get into anything that would make her sick or injure her. But there's still a lot of work to do before the house is fit to have company over. So my mom came in earlier, saw the state of the house, and started crying. I didn't mention this in the post, but my mom inherited the house jointly with my aunt, who lives on the other side of the state. My aunt will flip out if she sees what Sam did to it, which adds an extra layer of pressure on my mom to get it clean. The only thing my mom said when she walked in was that she's stressed out about all the stuff she has to do to prepare for Thanksgiving. And then she just stopped speaking altogether. I tried to talk to her, but she just ignored me. Now she's just in the kitchen trying to make it look presentable. Final update. Well, I told my aunt about everything, and now she's pushing to sell the house. She says that she does not want to pay expenses on a house that a 20-something-year-old is just going to trash. So yeah, that's that, I guess. I, 31 female, and my fiancé, 30 male, usually stay with friends or family when we visit my hometown, as we live 5 hours away. However, during our first visit, my mother's boyfriend, now fiancé, made us feel uncomfortable. He told me, "Don't you let him go upstairs," pointing at my fiancé, because my mother was in the bath, But it was unclear what he meant by this. My fiancé tried to make a joke saying, "What do you think I'm going to do, jump in the bath with her?" But the boyfriend repeated himself and walked away. My fiancé, who works as a teacher in a school, is aware of the seriousness of making false accusations, and we understand the impact it can have on his career due to the necessary background checks. Any false allegations would result in the loss of his qualifications and potential job opportunities. I later spoke to my mother about it, but she dismissed his behavior as protective and never addressed it with him. We haven't stayed at their house since then, only seeing them at family events. Recently, I asked my mother if she ever talked to her boyfriend about the situation, but she hadn't and defended his behavior. I told her I didn't want to attend their wedding or stay at their house anymore if they couldn't acknowledge the incident. My fiancé and I are both introverts and avoid drama, but I can't shake the feeling of discomfort from that first visit. My mother has been in many relationships and has always idolized her partners, which has strained our relationship. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to attend my mother's wedding? Not the a-hole. Skip this wedding and go to her next one. Not the a-hole. I would have felt and reacted the same way as you. His behavior screams red flags to me. While weird, Mom's partner's comment should not have been that big of a deal if that was the only incident. If he makes you that uncomfortable, don't be with him unless it's in public. That would be manageable at a wedding. Attend, but don't be near the groom unless in a group. Skipping your mom's wedding may have bigger consequences. I don't see a reason to not go to the wedding based upon what you've written here. Avoid being alone with the groom, maybe. Avoid the whole wedding? No. Some backstory first. I used to work somewhere and made a few male friends. There were simply no females around my age. The females that were there were like 40 plus, and I started there at 20. I'm now 28. I have always kept it professional with the guys. No flirting whatsoever. Never wanted to give anyone the wrong idea. I was just there to get a bag, period. So the guys I was cool with, I met their wives at a work event and we hit it off. Became good friends with one of them. Let's call her Jane, and her husband Jack, my coworker, ended up having mutual friends. I would definitely say I was closer to her than with her husband, who was my coworker. We're not as close anymore. I simply consider her a friend, but we simply grew apart. I still would see her at mutual friends' parties, and we always talk and catch up like nothing had changed. She has always told me, if I hear anything at work about her husband, about him even flirting with anyone at work, to let her know ASAP. There was nothing to tell. We didn't get a lot of female hires. I haven't worked there in a couple years, but I still know people that do. In the last 5 years or so, there have been some more young women getting hired. Someone reached out to me asking if I was still friends with Jane, and I said yes. They proceeded to tell me Jack was talking all this mess about wanting to duck one of the girls there, and this girl had already dubbed herself the name Everybody's Girl. They were giving me too many specific details, sounded more than just a rumor. The day they told me, they said Jack had called out the night before, and so did Everybody's Girl. Apparently, Jack and Everybody's Girl still drove to work. He parked his car and they left in hers. They saw that in the security cameras, and the gossip spread. I waited until I got much more information, and it was too much. I couldn't keep holding it in. So I reached out to Jane and told her everything I knew. Since she's always told me to tell her if I heard anything, I would want the same. She blew up on him, as I knew she would. He later called my phone through her phone and yelled all sorts of profanity at me, saying I'm the reason their little family is breaking up. I hung up, obviously, 'cause boy, who the duck are you to tell me I ruined y'all, when you're the one that wanted to get your duck wet? I did have my doubts when I hadn't heard from Jane until the next day, like maybe they were just rumors and he actually didn't do anything. Jane later reached out and said he confessed everything, so I was right. He lied to her, said he got called in early to work, when in reality, he called out sick and left with Everybody's Girl. However, a couple people have told me I shouldn't have gotten involved, but if I was in that situation, I would want to know, although not everyone might feel that way. I always remembered Jane told me she would want to know as well. If she hadn't, I don't know what I would have done. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You didn't ruin Jack's family. He did it himself. If he wanted to keep it, he shouldn't have cheated. I have a feeling it wasn't the first time he did something like this. Since Jane had asked you to watch him, she probably had a reason to be suspicious. Not the a-hole. She suspected him of cheating. If not, she wouldn't have asked you to tell her if you found out about him messing around. You simply did as she asked. You didn't break up his family. He did. Not the a-hole. As others have said, you conveyed information to a friend that they asked for, which turned out to be true. Even if not requested, I support sharing that type of info, and then it is up to them to decide. He is solely to blame. I've gotten downvoted in the past from those who think a single, unattached woman is equally to blame as a married man for having consensual relations. She is guilty of poor judgment, but he is the one who had an affair. He cheated. He broke up his family.